and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about ENHYPEN's intro Whiteout, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the concept of their upcoming comeback. Intro Whiteout is a song that introduces the new concept of ENHYPEN's first full album. After Border Day 1 and Border Carnival, this time around the boys are coming back with a brand new series, and so far we know for a fact that this new installment is gonna be called Dimension Dilemma. Up until now, this is pretty much all we know about this comeback, but as it turns out, there are already some clues that might help us understand the direction that the storyline is taking, the first of which is actually the title of the album itself. You see, if back in the Border series the focus was on the process of crossing the border between one world and another, Dimension Dilemma seems to introduce a new concept revolving around the boys finally arriving in this new world and facing the problems that this change actually entails. Much like what the boys themselves have confirmed time and time again, their unfolding concept can be seen as a metaphor for the real-life experience in the new world of the music industry. If Day 1 was about them transforming from boys to idols, Carnival was about them adjusting to the strange world that they found themselves in, so following this logic, the Dimension series will show us the first experience in this new world and all the dilemmas that they will meet along the way. Now in Intro Whiteout, this process is actually portrayed in a very interesting way, because in the song this new stage of their journey depicts the boys washing up on an island that they defined as the most fantastic island in the world. This is the dimension that the boys reached after crossing the border on Day 1 and entering the wormhole of Border Carnival, and this idea is actually confirmed by the video itself. If on the one hand, Whiteout shows us the boy falling into the same tunnel that we saw back in the wormhole, on the other, the beach that appears in the new intro is the same location that we saw at the end of the outro, so it's fair to assume that in this new installment, the boys have completed their transition and are now fully immersed into the reality beyond the line. Much like what the title foreshadows, however, their initial reaction to this new environment is one of confusion, because if the whiteout refers to a state of low visibility, the song initially tells us that the boys have their eyes open but cannot actually see. This is the exact opposite of what happened in Outro the Wormhole, because back then the boys described a vision with no sight. In the outro their eyes were closed but they could see, and in the intro their eyes are open but they are blind, and this can actually be seen as a metaphor for the transition between their dream and the reality of it all. If when they're crossing the border the boys have a clear vision of their destination, when this dream becomes real, ENHYPEN are blinded by the brightness of this new world, but this changes when they adapt to this environment, because at that point this new reality is revealed in the noonday sun and in the midday sea. Now these lines are actually very interesting, because even if in the story the boys are vampires, in this context ENHYPEN are standing in the sunlight in the brightest moment of the day. One thing that is important to point out, however, is that this new world is basically a dream turned real. It's a carnival where up is down and down is up, life is mixed with death, and day and night coexist, so it's entirely possible that this reality might have different rules in comparison to our own, because as real as it is, it's still a dream world nonetheless. As the song says, in the most fantastic island in the world, the boys can take anything they want, but much like what they told us in Given and Taken, if you take something in this world, you have to give something in return. Just like in real life, the boys had to give up their normal life in order to take the opportunities ahead of them, the boys in the new dimension can take anything, but have to give away the most precious things that they have. Now in the song, this concept is presented both as a welcome and as a warning, because even if this new reality is an incredible place full of possibilities, it's also a location where you have to be careful about the choices that you make. This is where the concept of dilemma comes into play, because even if they succeeded in crossing the border, now they have to survive in this new world and find the best way to reach the treasure. After washing up on the shore of the most fantastic island in the world, the dilemma is now which direction to take next, and in the song the boys have to choose whether they want to face a brooding monster or a swirling tornado. Now this choice is actually very telling, because both of these options are as dangerous as the other. This dilemma is not so much about deciding which direction is safer, but rather which one of the two is the lesser evil, and this is a very important concept to keep in mind, because much like in reality, their journey in the story is gonna be difficult no matter the choice that they make. Since the destination is the treasure, only those who are ready to go against the odds deserve to reach it, and in the album this idea is gonna be portrayed with a concept inspired by literature. You see, if we take a look at the album previews, we can see that Dimension Dilemma is gonna have 3 different versions. The first is called Scylla, the second Odysseus, and the third Charybdis, and these names actually come straight out of the Odyssey, which is a Greek epic poem attributed to Homer that dates all the way back to the 8th century BC. Now, much like what the title suggests, the Odyssey is the epic story of Odysseus, who is a hero from Greek mythology, as well as the king of the island of Ithaca. This is an epic divided into 24 books that begins right after the end of the Trojan War and that follows Odysseus' treacherous journey to go back home, and as we see in a second, this journey is a very dangerous one. You see, in the story, Odysseus not only takes 10 years in order to get to his destination, but along the way he also meets countless dangers, undergoes many adventures, and ends up losing all his crew in the process of getting home. Now, despite the Odyssey has many memorable characters and stories, the one that ENHYPEN are referencing in Dilemma is an episode that we can find in Book 12. In this section of the epic, Odysseus and his crew just survived an encounter with the Sirens and now have to cross the Strait of Messina, which is a passage between Sicily and the Italian region of Calabria. Achieving this task, however, is easier said than done, because on each side of the passage there are two creatures that destroy any ship that dare to cross it. On one side we find Scylla, who is a monster with 6 heads, 12 feet, and 2 dog heads growing out of her loins. On the other instead we have Charybdis, who is depicted as a whirlpool that swallows any ship by dragging them in the depths of the sea. One is a monster, the other a sea tornado, and these are exactly the two options that the intro is presenting us in the lyrics, meaning that in this context ENHYPEN will play the role of Odysseus in the process of overcoming this quest. Now, despite the song ends before letting us know which danger the boys will face, it's also important to point out that in the original story, Odysseus ends up facing both. As I mentioned earlier, this is a matter of choosing the lesser of two evils, so in a desperate attempt at saving as many men as possible, the hero initially decides to cross on the side of Scylla. This is because even if Scylla is a terrible monster, she only has 6 heads, so she can only kill 6 people at once. Charybdis, on the other hand, would have swallowed the entire ship, so as painful as it is, Odysseus decides to sacrifice 6 of his men in order to save the others from certain death. After successfully crossing the passage, however, the crew decides to stop on the island of Helios, which is the god of the sun. This is a location that Odysseus was told not to go, but since he disobeys and his men eat the cattle sacred to the god, Helios retaliates by sending his ship on the side of Charybdis, who ends up killing all the men that the hero tried to save. Now, up until now, we still don't know to what extent this concept will be used in Dilemma, but one thing that we know for sure is that no matter what direction the boys will take, ENHYPEN will have to run. In order to get to the treasure, the boys will have to face many obstacles, but to know how things will play out, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!